Good morning. How is everybody today? I was really excited to share some stuff with all of you today because on Friday I went live over on the Simon Says Stamp YouTube channel and we were making some great Valentine love themed projects. If you're curious about that live stream, I do have it linked below in the video description. But while we were chatting and creating, I was talking about a color combination of using orange, pink, and purple, and it has stuck in my head all weekend. And I was like, you know what? I want to create and use that color combo and share it with you because I'm also going to be doing a fun stenciling and embossing folder technique too. I love using embossing folders, so mixing and matching them together is a really fun way to be able to utilize both the stencils and the folders together to create a really unique background. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. Before I get into it and show you how I'm going to create these backgrounds, I did want to point out that you can do this with any products that you have already. So pick out a few stencils that you love, some of your favorite embossing folders, and then those are going to be great for combining together. This is a really simple technique, but it's a lot of fun. So I think you're going to have a good time experimenting along with me and seeing it come together. All right, so why don't I pop down to my desk so I could show you where we're going with today's technique. So we're going to be making two finished cards, and I'm actually going to show you a variation to this background. This is really fun. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Anne-Marie. That's my mom. Hi, Mom. I hope you guys are excited to create with me. So this background here, which features these fun flowers, I'm going to show you a couple variations of that one so you can get that really cool floral pattern on top of your stenciling. And this is actually the back side of the embossed design. So if you look on the back side, this is the raised size of the paper versus this, we're going to actually have it pressed in, which is really fun. Hi, Lisa. Yeah, so then this one is a layering stencil, and we're going to do some embossing with the raised side of the folder on top of our stenciling. So just a couple of different ways that we're going to get that embossed detail on our backgrounds, which is really fun. Okay, so why don't I go on and show you the products that I'm using today. But again, remember, you don't have to use the same folders and stencils that I'm using. You can get the same effect with other stencils and folders. So this pretty floral is the Dancing Floral Embossing folder. I'm using that for this background here and also the one that I did with the hearts. So that creates a really pretty floral pattern. I liked that one a lot. Okay, and then for the stenciling on that one, I'm going to use this Falling in Love stencil from Simon Says Stamp. I'm using mostly Simon Says Stamp products today, but you could also use this one here, which is called Tumbling Hearts. It's a slightly different variation of a heart pattern, but it's really cute. So something with some larger areas is going to be helpful because that's going to allow you to see more of your embossed details. Just to give you an example, this one is something I was just playing around with. This is showing you how we have this fun scattering of stenciling. So these are just some sprinkles, but I used a smaller embossing folder to create that little scattered confetti effect. That looks really cool with something like this that's a little bit more scattered. So if you have a smaller pattern with smaller elements, that works really well. Versus here, you wouldn't want to use a stencil that's too delicate because you won't see the floral design or whatever your embossing folder is as easily. So just keep that in mind when you're picking your products. Pick a embossing folder that scales well with the stencils that you're going to use. Okay, and then for that variation that I'm doing with the Dancing Floral embossing folder, I'm also going to use this bold geometric stencil too, just to show you that it doesn't have to be hearts. You don't have to use a heart pattern. This can be altered in however way you want. Pick a nice shape that, like I said, has a good open area that balances well with your embossing folder. All right, so that's for this technique. For the second technique that I'm going to share, let me bring that card in. This one is featuring this fun layering hearts stencil. This is called Candy Hearts. It's really cute. It's hard to see it in the packaging, but this illustrates to you how the stencils come together to create this really fun background. But then we enhance it by taking an embossing folder, and this one, let me grab my pink cardstock so you can see it better. This one here is the Magnificent Burst embossing folder from Rainbow Splash, and that created that really cool, like almost starburst effect on top of the hearts, which I really, really liked. And then to finish off these cards, I did pick out a couple of sentiments. So I'm going to use the birthday wishes greeting for, let's see, where did they go? These cards. And then for the card with the shaker, because I will show you how I make that edge-to-edge shaker as well, I'm going to use this Simple Sending Love. I think this one's really cute. It's got a playful feel to it. All right, so let me bring my pieces in. I did do a slight bit of prepping ahead of time just to help with the cadence. I'm going to be stenciling both this geometric background and the hearts onto some arches. These arches are from Simon Says Stamps Nested Domed Arches die set, which has a lot of them in it. So I'm using the second to largest. I'm not using the biggest one. That one's about the size of an A2 card. I'm using the one that's a slight smaller, just so that way I get that really nice border around my card base. Okay? All right. So to stencil, we're going to be using a few different inks. And for this one, like I said at the beginning, I'm using a combination of pink, purple, and orange. And so for both of the cards that I'm creating today, I am going to be using all 6 of these ink colors. These are Pawsitively saturated ink colors from Simon Says Stamp. Hi Sylvia. Oh, I'm glad you're here. Yes, I'm glad you're joining me for the live stream. Yeah, so these are the colors I'm going to be using throughout all of my projects today. If you don't have a trio like Simon Says Stamp's Pawsitively saturated ink colors, you can easily use one shade and then just use it a little bit lighter and then add a little bit more ink to make it darker. So just keep that in mind as we're working. So to start with though, I'm just going to be using 3 shades. I'm going to use Grapefruit, and then I will use Orchid and Bubblegum. Those are the 3 colors that I'm going to use for this technique to start. We'll use the rest of the colors for our other card when we do the layering. And this is really fun to do because I loved trying out some different ways to combine the embossing folders and the stencils. Hi, Heather. Oh, I'm glad you like the color palette. You used something kind of similar for the projects that you made inspired by the live stream that we did at Simon. I loved your project. You did a bag, a card, and a tag. It was really cute. So yeah, so let me go back to what I was saying here. So the folder that we're using for this is the Dancing Floral. And I'm going to actually emboss this before I do my ink blending. And that's going to give me a really fun effect. So what I'm going to do is, if you notice, if you've never used these embossing folders before, I'm just going to show you quick. You have a debossed side of the folder, which is where the design is pressed into the plastic. And then you also have the embossed side of the folder where it's raised. And for this technique, we want the pattern debossed into the paper. So we want it pressed in. So I'm going to make sure that I lay my paper into the folder and have the raised side of it going onto the front. So we want to press that design into it. So that's going to give us that debossed effect, and then we'll stencil on top. So I just need to grab my die cut machine so that I can emboss this. And I'm using a big shot, so I need to put my platform for using 3D embossing folders to the base. So your machine might be different depending on what you have. I always like to put my folder into my machine at a slight angle. Just that way it helps keep the folder from warping. And then all I need is a single plate. So we'll run this through like so. All right. And if you guys have any questions while I'm working, feel free to let me know. I'm keeping an eye on the chat. Okay, I'm going to do this twice because I am going to show you this with the hearts and also that geometric pattern. So I do have a second panel that I'm going to go ahead and emboss the exact same way. So we're placing this into the folder, and then the dimensional raised side of the folder is getting laid on top of the front side of our paper. All right. There we go. Again, I'm going to put that at an angle. And then go ahead and run that through. All right. So now I'll put this away. Okay, so we have two panels with our floral design pressed into it. And now I'm going to grab my stamp and stencil mat. I used this on Friday too when I was doing that live stream with Heidi over at the Simon Says Stamp YouTube channel. This mat is fantastic for stenciling. So I'm placing this inside of my mat. It's tacky, so it's going to hold the paper in place as well as your stencils. So your paper and the stencils will not shift as you're ink blending. So I'm going to start first with the hearts. This is the Falling in Love pattern. It's super cute. If I want to say when I was looking, putting all the links together, that this one might be out of stock over at Simon Says Stamp right now, but if you want to get it, you can always click the notify me when back in stock button, and Simon will send you an email exactly when this gets back in. So it's a really good pattern for year round, not just for Valentine's Day. Okay, so just to reiterate, we're using these three colors to start, and I'm going to begin with the purple, I think, because I'm going to work my way from the bottom to the top. And I'm going to bring in some blending brushes. I'm using Simon Says Stamp's small blending brushes for this. You could also use some larger ones if you like, but I have a tendency to kind of reach for some smaller ones when I'm doing a pattern like this where I'm trying to keep a certain amount of colors in the space. So it just helps me maintain a little bit more control. All right, so just ink up my brush and then bring that in. I always like to start off the paper and then bring it into my stencils, just so that way I don't overwhelm it with ink. I was mentioning that also in my live stream with Heidi on Friday. I had so much fun on that. That was a blast. All right. And let me know how the sound is. This is my first time going live on my channel, so I'm just trying to like make sure I've worked out all the bugs and all that. Oh, good. I'm so glad you had a good time at the class, Heather. Yeah, so what's really fun about this is you can do the stenciling first and then do the embossing, but I really like how it looks when you do the stenciling after the embossing. It was a really, really unique way to capture some of the details around the embossed designs. I think it makes it, I think, more interesting to do it with the embossing first and then the stenciling. All right, so once I have my purple down, I am feathering some of that into the area where I'm going to want the pink, because I want these colors to overlap and you get that nice like third color in between. Okay. What does Jean say? Jean says, usually use Stampin' Up! Products and never seen a sticky mat for stencils. Can I get one from Simon Says Stamp? Yes, you can. I do have the Stampin' Stencil mat in the product list. Just double checking that. Oh, I may have forgotten to put that in there. Hold on, I'm going to drop that in there for you. And you'll just have to refresh you'll just have to refresh your screen to get the link to update. Just give me a second here while I'm adding that for you. See, I thought I had everything, and I apparently missed adding that one. Okay, just give me a second. I'm dropping that in and then copying it over to the description. Let's see, there it is. And then, okay. Yeah, so Jean, if you refresh your screen, you'll be able to see the added mat to the description box below the video. So go ahead and check that out. Thanks for help. You're welcome. Yeah, Heather, it's such a really cool way to see how the ink blending takes the paper takes the ink blending when you do the embossing first and then the stenciling. I was playing around with it and I was like, oh, I like this so much more. Okay, so now I'm using Bubblegum, and this is a really soft pink, which I liked. I liked how the soft pink transitioned from the purple to the orange. It wasn't overpowering. So I'm just going to come in and add that through this middle section, but I'm not going too far over towards this left side because that's where I'm going to add the orange. So again, just feather that, and then we'll move on to grapefruit. Okay. Hi, Allison. You're from Texas. You're not too late. We just started. And you can always rewind and see the beginning too. But we're working on ink blending with stencils over top of embossed designs. So it's giving us some really cool backgrounds. All right, so finally I'm going to bring in that pretty grapefruit color. This color combination is super fresh. It's a nice change from this like pinks and reds. Okay, so here we are. This looks so pretty. I am so happy with how this is turning out. All right, so we have our hearts, but again, you can do this with any other shape. This does not have to be hearts. I'm going to show you the geometric one next, just to show you the slight variation. So I'm just going to pop that off of my Stampin' Stencil mat. You just fold the mat a little bit on the sides, and that'll pop your paper off. So I have my second panel that we embossed. I'm going to lay that one down, and we're going to do the exact same thing, but this time with that bold geometric stencil. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Allison. The class was great. Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed that, Allison. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm just laying this on top of here, and I'm going to use those exact same colors and do the exact same thing. So we're just repeating, but it's a good illustration of how this technique can be done with other shapes. It does not have to be the exact same products that I'm using. So I encourage you to look through your stash and see what you have so that you can create something similar. So we're just gonna go back through here, and again, do about 1/3 of the panel, feathering it in towards the center. I think what makes this look so cool is that the raised parts of the paper are getting a little bit darker, and then the parts that are pressed in are not getting as much of the ink, so that's what's creating that really cool relief. Josie says, love the color combination you chose. Wouldn't have picked it, but love it, and now we'll add this to my color choices. Cool, good. It's fun to play around with color. I enjoy it so much. Sometimes experiments don't always work, but when they do, it's a good feeling. All right, so I'm using Bubblegum again. Again, the same colors that I used just a few minutes ago. And I'm gonna feather that into both this purple area, but then back up towards the top so that it'll meet up with my orange. I love when pink and orange meet together. They are so pretty. It forms this like beautiful peach. Okay. Hi, Helen. Glad to have you here. You have embossing folders and stencils, so another way to combine them. Absolutely. It's great to experiment and see how they create such a unique effect. These patterns are beautiful on their own. This geometric is gorgeous. But when you add the embossing, it's like a completely different look. And I hope you guys like shaker cards because I am a huge fan of them. I make edge-to-edge shaker cards quite often. And I wanted to be able to turn that candy hearts background that I showed at the beginning of the video into a shaker card. So I'm going to use some fun sequins. I have these really cool little beads from Pink Fresh that I got. These are really yummy. They almost look like little like nonpareil sprinkles. So they're really cute to mix in with some other sequins. So I'll show you what I'm going to do with that later. What does Lynn say? Thank you so much for the help. I have so many embossing folders and never know how to use them. You know, the ways of using embossing folders sometimes feel limitless. It's a lot of fun, though, to experiment. Okay, now, before I go any further with what I was about to say, check this out. I mean, look at how cool this is. And it looks so different compared to the hearts. I just love this. This is such a really unique way to be able to combine these. All right, so let me put this stencil aside and clean up my desk. What I was going to say about embossing folders is how, like we're saying that there's so many ways to use them. I love when you can take an embossing folder and add ink to it, or the blackout technique. I saw Mindy Egan just posted a project where she had this beautiful, I think it was a rainbow splash embossing folder. It was like little hearts with petals on it. And she did this beautiful ink of pink and then put the black over top. It was stunning. I loved it. So it's just like so many different ways you can use them. It's almost like when you hold your embossing folder, it's like, okay, what should I do with it? Because I could do almost anything. Alrighty. So at this point, I will show you, maybe I'll show you the other stenciling technique first, since I have my stenciling stuff out still, and then we'll assemble all the cards. So we've done this technique, and now I'm going to show you doing this one. And for this technique, we will stencil first and then emboss. So it's going to be the reverse of what I did here. So let me grab my white cardstock panel. Put those over here, get that out of the way. And bring that stamp and stencil mat in place. This one's going to be critical. The stamp and stencil mat is going to be critical for helping me assemble these stencils, because these are layering stencils. And this candy heart stencil is really fun because it gives you the hearts, but then you get the shading, which makes them look dimensional. And I really, really love how that works. So this set has 2 pieces per heart. So I'm just going to find the etching. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. I grab some dark cardstock so I can have that behind it. See how there's some etching down at the bottom of these? This is just to let you know which is the front side of the folder. And it also obviously will let you know which is the bottom, so you have it facing up the right way. So I'm going to sort through these and find all that etching and figure out, let's see, like this one works with that. So you can see how the shading colors these larger hearts. So those go together. And then, oh, these are already lined up, so that's perfect. These are the slightly smaller hearts, and then these are the last 2, and these are the smallest of the hearts. So, hi Joyce, nice to have you here from Arizona. Oh, it's a beautiful day. It's cold and snowy here, which is why I thought it would be such a good time to craft, because I don't want to go outside. Hi B, hi Diane, nice to see you. Okay, so let's work on some stenciling. And like I was saying, this mat is going to be so helpful in making sure that these stencils get lined up. So if you notice, I placed my cardstock inside of this teal rectangle. This is an A2 size card. The other one is an A2 card, just landscape instead of portrait. So when I take my stencils, I'm going to go through each of these and make sure that I line them up inside of the black box that's around the outer edges. This is a 6x6 black box to help you line up your stencils in the exact location that they're supposed to be. And then every stencil after this, I will line up in the exact same place so that everything will be centered and lined up correctly on my card. All right, so let me move these out of the way so I don't get them in my way. And now I'm gonna bring in all those extra ink colors that I had. So I'm going to do the largest hearts in orange. So I have peachy and grapefruit. These are 2 shades out of the 3 positively saturated ink colors in this particular trio. So the darkest color is mandarin. But I'm going to start first with peachy. Peachy is going to be the color that I'll color these hearts, and then the shading layer will be done in grapefruit. So that slightly darker color. But like I was saying at the beginning, if you don't have 2 different colors like this that would work together to create the shading, use whatever color you have. And if it's like, say maybe it's this darker orange, go a little lighter for your base layer, and then just bring this one in for the second layer and go a little darker. So that way you can get that shading effect. All right, so let me move these things out of the way, bring my blending brush back in, and I'm going to use the same small blending brush that I was working with earlier and just go through and color each one of these. And then this way I can get a nice base coat down for these. And these are the largest hearts. This was a really fun stencil. I actually designed this one for Simon. I want to say it was last year for Valentine's Day. I loved putting this together, and working with it is even more fun because it's one thing to see something on the computer, but then when you get to actually play with it, it's really rewarding. Okay, so just color through each of these. And says that's a neat stencil set. It is a neat stencil set. All right. And this doesn't have to be perfect. The nice thing about Simon's positively saturated inks is that they dry really smooth, and they do dry back a little bit too. So if it looks a little dark at first, as it dries, it'll lighten up. All right, so layer number 1 is done. So that means I can bring in layer number 2. And I'm just going to use that black box as my guide. And then I can just carefully look at the rest of my hearts just to make sure I do have this perfectly placed. Press it down. Josie says, using the deboss side of the folder and stenciling after gave a different look and extends supplies. It totally extends the supplies. And when you see this in comparison to this one, I love, like, it looks completely different. So it's just another way to be able to get more out of what you already have. So I would encourage you, grab embossing folders and stencils from your stash and play around. I had so much fun playing with these. Okay, so just gonna go through and now color over each of my little areas here. I was hoping maybe Oscar might join me, my cat Oscar, in the craft room today, but he seems to be sleeping elsewhere. Maybe as it gets closer to lunchtime, he'll come in and entertain us. He always somehow ends up in my videos when I'm filming. Okay, so just going to wrap up the ink blending on this end. Okay. So there we go. So we have layer number 1 and 2, but heart set 1 complete. So that means we can bring in the next set. I'm going to do the medium-sized hearts in pink and then the smallest ones in purple. I just feel like the purple's the strongest color out of all the shades that I have here. So I think that having that be the smaller hearts just balances nicely. Okay. So again, using that black square, I can place my stencil down. Oops, I shifted it though. Fix that. These do hold though really nicely. I love it because then that means you don't need tape. The other thing I will use sometimes is a craft tacky mat from Simon Says Stamp if I'm not doing layering stencils. layering stencils, I find this is like the best because of all the guides with it. But if I was just going to ink blend maybe just one layer stencil, then I might just reach for the craft tacky mat instead. It kind of depends on what I'm doing. But for today, I was trying to keep the stuff on my desk at a minimum. So I just decided to use the Stampin' Stencil mat for everything today. Especially since I was doing the layering. Okay, now I'm using Bubblegum. This is the lightest. And then Sweets is the color I will use for the shading. So we're going to go through and color these medium-sized hearts. And because the stencil has so many open spots, I'm using that as like my tap-off point for my ink so that I don't come directly into the stenciled areas with the ink. When you do, you have a tendency to sometimes, if you have too much ink on your brush, you have a tendency to sometimes have it seep underneath the stencil. So it's always nice to work off of your area and then just bring it in. So that's why I'm using this, like these middle areas to like brush off the extra ink. Hi Irma, Southern California. It's probably a lot warmer there than it is here. I'm on Cape Cod on the East Coast. All right, so we're gonna pop this stencil off. You can start to see the pattern coming together. So now we'll bring in the next layer for this set of hearts. Line it up in the black square. Press that down good. And then now I'll use Sweets. I'll go ahead and color these in. How's everybody doing? I picked 11 for the live stream today because there's a lot of other stuff going on. I know there's other crafters going live in the afternoon, and I didn't want to impact you being able to watch them as well. And plus then there was the Super Bowl in the evening, so I was like, well, maybe 11 won't be too bad for those of you on the West Coast. So I'm hoping this was a good time. Is anybody watching the Super Bowl? I'm a football fan. I probably will watch it, but I'm not rooting for either team. I like the Vikings, and they didn't make it. Okay. Oh, thank you, Ashley. That's very sweet of you to say. All right, so I have the second layer on that heart complete. And now I need to work on my purple layer. So let me close this ink pad so I don't put my finger in it. And then I'll line up this stencil, and this will be our last ink blending layer. So now I'm going to use Lilac and Orchid, but we'll start with Lilac. Oh, Anne, hi, it's nice to see you. Thank you. Hi, Amy. Hi, Summer, Minnesota. Finally made it to your live. Oh, I'm so glad you made it. Joyce says not a football fan, but we'll watch with the hubby. Oh, there you go. Get a nice cuddly blanket. Get all cozy on the couch. Okay, so like I said, I'm starting with Lilac, and there's only a few of these, so I'm just going to go through quick and color the purple ones. I love Anne's work. Anne is so talented. She makes such beautiful cards. If you don't follow Anne on social media, Anne, I hope I pronounced your last name right, Anne Feen. She is amazing. You should follow her. She's really, really good. Okay, last layer here. I'm just going to pop this on top using the black square as my guide. All right, so last layer is Orchid. And this is nice dark purple. We have two Anns in the chat today. Anne Marie Trapani, if you notice the last name, that's my mom. She also is crafty. She's been making cards, but she also illustrates over at Simon Says Stamp like I do. So there's been quite a few sets of hers that have been released. Always and Forever was her latest one in the Valentine collection. All right, so our background is complete. There we go. So now I'm just going to pop this off my Stampin' Stencil mat. Alrighty, and I can put that aside. And let me just wipe up, because I do have a little bit of ink here. I don't want to get that on any of my projects. Alrighty, summer. Vikings fan, yay! I got a Vikings fan in the house. Well, we can always hope for next year, right? Okay, so now we have all of our backgrounds complete. So this is where we're at. We need to emboss this one. So I'm going to bring in the Magnificent Burst embossing folder from Rainbow Splash. This is a Simon Says Stamp brand. It's only available at Simon Says Stamp. Rainbow Splash has a lot of really fun products in its collection, including cardstocks and ink too. So for this, I want the embossing to be dimensional. So let me show you. We did embossing pressed into the paper, so debossing is another way of saying it. This time we want the embossing to be dimensional, so we want the raised design facing us. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we place this inside of our folder. Remember, you have the deboss side, so the design is pressed in, plus the raised side. Because we want the raised side on the front of our panel, we need that to be behind our cardstock. So we're going to lay this so that the pressed inside of the folder is on top of our design. So the dimensional is on the back side. Does that make sense? All right, so this is going to get run through my die cut machine, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab that and set up the platforms. I agree, Irma. Next year, we're going to do it. Okay, so just run this through. Again, I'm putting this on an angle for those of you that joined late. I like to do that just to help make sure that the folder doesn't get warped as I use it. All right, trying to run my machine very quietly so it doesn't make a loud noise on you guys. Okay. So there we go. We have that really fun, almost starburst effect now, pressed on top of our design. Super cute. So now we're at the point of where we can start pulling all of this together into some cute cards. And just to remind you of where we're going, these are the finished cards that I made when I was kind of playing around with this technique. The heart version will look very much like this. So we'll make two of these, and one of them will be hearts and the other one will be the geometric pattern. And then this one's going to be a shaker card. So I do need to trim this down. So let me grab my paper trimmer so I can just cut this. I'm using the Tim Holtz guillotine trimmer. I just want to cut this so that it's a little bit smaller. I'm going to do 4 by 5 1/4. That way it'll be a little bit smaller than an A2 card, so I get that really pretty color showing around the edges. Okay. All right. So I think I'll start first with these guys, and then we'll move on to the shaker card. We'll do the shaker card last. So I need to grab some embossing ink and gold embossing powder. The reason I'm doing what I'm doing is I want to add this gold framing around the edge of my card. I want it to feel like there's some gold cardstock back there, but I didn't want to have some extra cardstock handy, so I can do the same thing by adding some embossing ink. So let me show you how we do that. You're going to take your ink pad, and you're very carefully just going to tap it around the edges of your cardstock. You don't want to press it too hard, and don't drag it. Dragging it could potentially cut your pad. So just very carefully tap it. If you drag it across, I have done that before, and then your pad gets a cut through, which is no fun. So I'm going to go through and do both of these, and I will apologize ahead of time that we're going to have to run the heat tool to set these, so it will get a little loud. But we'll do it as quickly as we can. Okay, so tap that around. Let's see, we have a question here. Quick question. Is it recommended to wet the paper a little when embossing? Do you have to do it here too after inking, or does the ink make it moist enough? You can. It is often recommended to spritz your paper before embossing, but because I did the ink blending, I didn't want to mess up my ink blending, so I didn't bother. I didn't have any cracking. I'll go ahead and pop back down here. I didn't have any cracking on my paper, so I would just say experiment, but that is the reason why I didn't moisten the paper. I also don't usually moisten a paper if I'm using like a metallic cardstock or something with a specialty finish, just because it has a tendency to mess it up a little bit. So that's kind of my approach to it. I will if it's regular cardstock and there's no ink on it, but if I was going to do an inky technique and then emboss, then I wouldn't do it. All right, so we have our ink on our panels. I'm just gonna bring in a coffee filter so I can catch my powder. I'm going to kind of like pour it out and then just tap my cardstock into the powder and just kind of pick it up. And then it's a pretty mess-free way of getting the powder onto your wet ink. So I'll just do that for both of these. And go along. Tap off any excess. Okay, oops, let me brush it off a little. There we go. Okay, so put this away. Oh my goodness, Kathy Zilski's here. Hi, Kathy. Kathy also does some really great live streams. I always love watching her. Kathy Zilski, Anne-Marie Trapani is my mother. I'm very lucky to have a mother who supports me so much. All right, so I'm going to bring in my heat tool. I apologize again if this is going to get a little loud, but we're just going to go through and set this. Okay, so I have one done, and so now we have that really cute gold detail around the edges. Oh, Kathy, you're so sweet. All right, so I'm going to quick emboss the other one, and then we'll be able to move on to the next step. There we go. So we have two of these panels with the gold detail around the edges. I love the Kathy's here. I get to work with Kathy over at Simon Says Stamp. She is another product designer, and her and I, and also Sherry Carroll, we have meetings every month where we kind of talk about product designs and what we're planning for upcoming releases, and it's so much fun. I have a blast working with Kathy. She's hilarious. All right, so I'm going to be putting these onto some pink cardstock so that I have that really pretty color around the edges. So let me grab that. And then, let's see, do I have any handy here? I thought I pulled out pink. Nope, I didn't pull out. Let me grab some pink cardstock. Okay, I'm going to use, let's see. Nope, not that one. Cotton Candy from Simon Says Stamp. This is a really nice soft pink. It goes really well with the bubblegum. Hello, SoCal Colorist. Nice to see you. San Diego. Oh, wow. Okay, so for this, I'm going to make 2 card bases, and I'm going to make them top folding. They're my favorite type of card base. So because this is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, I'm going to cut that at 4 1/4 so that I get 2 panels. And then I'm gonna grab my Simon Says Stamp scoring board, and I'm going to score these at 5 1/2. And then I know it's a little hard to see because it's a very light color, but the 5 1/2 inch mark is here. So I'll just run that through and do that for both. Okay, so that gives me 2 card bases. Zoom back out. And then go ahead and fold both of these. Take my bone folder, give them a good crease. All right. And what's really fun about using this design and having the embossing on the back, it almost like it gives us a little bit of lift off of our card, because the embossing is keeping the paper from going completely flat to the card base. So it's going to give you a little bit of dimension without needing foam tape, which is fantastic because that means it's going to be a lot easier to mail. So to adhere these together, I'm just going to bring in, let me zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see better. I'm just going to bring in some Terrific tape, and I'm just going to put a couple pieces on the sides and then one in the middle. Just a few pieces. This tape, as the name suggests, just tears. It's really, really handy to work with. So you don't need scissors. And then I'll just remove the release paper. And then pop these onto my cards. And I love this because then it gives me that dimensional look. See how there's a little bit of a shadow there? It's subtle, but it makes it feel like it's popped up. So let me do that to the other panel. Let's see. Kathy saying, never think to deboss the front. Yeah, Kathy, it's such a different look. So we've got that, or you can still use the embossed side, but either way, you get a completely different effect. So a lot of fun. So press that down. I just want to make sure that when I peel this release paper off that the tape is sticking. Kathy, is Frankie with you today? Kathy has the most adorable grand kitty. His name is Frankie, and he's so cute. Okay, so at this point, I just need to add my greeting, and then I do have some gems that I'm going to put on. So for the greeting, I'm going to bring in birthday wishes. He's coming for the Super Bowl. Oh, that'll be nice. I love Frankie. Okay, so birthday wishes has a shadow layer, and then of course the die itself. I'm cutting the shadow layer from vellum, and then the sentiment is going to be with gold. And for the gold, I'm using Simon Says Stamp matte gold cardstock, and then I also have Simon Says Stamp vellum. So let me go ahead and trim some pieces here. I'm going to grab my Tim Holtz recoil snip. These are so comfy. They're so easy to use. Very gentle on your wrists and your fingers. I love them. Okay, and then I just need to cut a couple pieces of the gold. I just roughly cut. And then I keep all these like scraps down below my desk in a bin so that I can just grab them as I'm working. All right, let me set these aside so they're not in my way. Pick these up. And I'm going to bring in my smaller die cut machine for this. I like the Platinum Scout. This thing is so cute. Nina has many adorable kitties. I do. I have 4 of them. And they all abandoned me. They're all sleeping right now. They don't care that I'm live. Okay. So this Platinum Scout, he's so handy because he doesn't take up a ton of space on your desk. And so for like doing this, it's really easy. All right, so I'm gonna cut birthday wishes from the gold. Okay. This cuts so beautifully. We'll do that twice. So that way we'll have 2 greetings. And when you're making multiple cards, I know a lot of us always talk about this. It is so helpful when you do all the steps in stages. So like because I'm making 2 of these cards with the same greetings, I'm cutting all the greetings at once and then I'm going to glue it all together. It just makes the process so much faster because you're not constantly reaching for the supplies, putting them back and then grabbing them again. So now I'm cutting the vellum. And this is with that shadow layer. So that'll look really pretty. It'll just give me a little bit of separation from the greeting and the background. But it's not as harsh as if I were to use like just a white cardstock. Okay, and then last one for this. So that's for our greetings. I'll put this away, but I will bring it back for when we finish up the second card. Or, well, it's actually our third, but when we finish up this shaker card. Okay, so I have my vellum. Let me grab some cardstock so you can actually see that better. And I'm going to pop, let's see, I need, where'd my pokey tool go? There it is. I need my pokey tool and my tweezers. The pokey tool is going to help me pop this out and get all of those little inner pieces of the die cuts removed. And this is a very delicate little die cut, so I'm just trying to be careful that I don't bend it. Okay, and then these little guys I'll just pop out with that pokey tool. This one's the Simon Says Stamp Place and Pierce tool. Okay. So, and then we can't forget the little dots or the tittles above the eyes. There are 2 of them, so make sure you get both of those. The other one's stuck to the back side of my paper. All right, and to glue, everything's sticking to me. There we go. To glue these, I'm going to use Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue. The reason I use this glue is because it's really strong. And then it also dries clear. So it goes on white, which means you can see it, which is really helpful. But then after it dries, if you have any areas that may have like squished out the sides, you'll never notice because it's clear. Super convenient. Okay, so I'm very carefully gonna line this up on my vellum. Kind of eyeball it here and then I can fuss with it. Just get it in place. See, I have a little glue here on the vellum. I'm going to wipe that up. You'll never know that it was there. Let me grab my little microfiber, buff off any ink or glue. Okay, and then yes, always remember the tittles, Kathy. Can't forget those. Somehow, though, I always manage to lose one. I don't know why. And then it's always like, gee, I gotta cut the whole thing all over again. Okay. I mean, I guess you could always, like, fake it with a sequin, but I need to have the tittle. Now, for the tittle, because they're a little fussy to use sometimes with the tweezers, I'm actually going to grab my wax tip tool and pick them up. That's a lot easier. All right, so we got one greeting, and then I'll just go through and do the same thing for this guy. That's not the pokey end. Just fuss this out. Amy says, my husband has an Aunt Tittles. Nothing to do with I. Oh, that's cute. Okay. So my greeting, I'll keep those tittles in there for a second while I pop all these things out. Okay. Add a little bit of glue on there. Okay. I'm not super precise with the glue, just get a little on there. And then fiddle him in place. All right, last piece, well, other than the tittles. There we go. I love this gold. What I like about it is that it's not super shiny. It's got a more elegant finish to it. It's not in your face. All right, there's those little dots. And then I'll put just a couple dots of glue there. Pick these up. There we go. Okay, so my greetings are assembled. Put that out of the way. Now I want to pop these up. You don't have to. You could just glue these directly to the cards. But there's enough room on the back side that I can actually fit some small, thin foam strips back there. These are from Simon Says Stamp also, and they are so handy for making like shaker cards and stuff like that because they're very flexible. When you take the release paper off, I'll just show you. They have a really good flex to them. So it allows you to assemble like window shakers and stuff like that with these really easily. But they also are very thin, which is convenient for something like a greeting such as this, which has just enough space behind it that it hides that white foam. So I'm just going to go through and cut these. These are about 1/8 of an inch in thickness. So I'm just going to cut a few of these to go behind each of my letters. Put that up a little. There we go. Okay. One more there. Actually, I'll add one more on the eye. There we go. And then I'll do the same thing for this one. And because I put glue on this vellum, it is curling a little bit, but once the glue dries, the vellum will settle back down. Josie says, the gold embossing technique is perfect. It has just the right amount of sparkle and no added weight. Yes, it does. And you don't have to waste cardstock then, too. I mean, because like, if you wanted to put a little trim of gold cardstock, you either waste the whole middle section or you're sitting there cutting it out to save the interior part. So you don't have to worry about any of that. Just do the embossing and it gives you the same effect. Very elegant. Okay, I think just one more right there. That'll hold everything nicely. Okay, so I have my foam and then I've got my cards. So I'm just going to remove the release paper off of these so I can pop these onto my cards. Okay, I'm putting these along the bottom portion of the card so that way we have all that nice open space here and it feels balanced. Okay. Same with this side, we'll do the exact same thing. I always love a 2-for-1. Do all the work and make 2 with the same supplies. Okay, so I have my greetings attached. And the last thing I need to do to finish off these 2 cards is add a couple of gems. These are the opal dazzling gems from Simon Says Stamp. Gorgeous. These are so dreamy. I'm going to zoom in so you can see these better. They have this like dreamy, iridescent but yet cloudy finish. It just feels like a sparkling fog. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to glue these onto the cards with the same craft tacky glue, and I'm kind of going to do like 3 here and then 2 down here. So I'm just going to kind of pop a couple of dots of glue in a few places here. So I'll zoom in again so you can see that better. So I just put a couple dots here, and then I'm just going to put a couple of dots down here at the bottom. And I'm going to use a triangle tray so I can sprinkle a few of these in. It'll make it easier for me to pick them up. So I want a large one for sure. I think I'm going to do the large one here. And then I will do a smaller one down here. And then a medium size there. And I can just shimmy these a little bit. So I got 3 there, and then I'll do a medium size and then another small. So it kind of forms this like little trail. Kind of meets up with the sentiment, and it just kind of visually kind of drags your eye across the card. Bling is on your wish list, Amy? Yes, bling is, oh my goodness, I can't get enough of bling. All right, so I want to do the same thing to this card. So just go back through, and this does not have to be exact. Like, I don't need to make these cards identical. I'm just roughly eyeballing it. Because it's not meant to be perfect. All right. So, there we go. 2 cards with the same technique. That same debossing, and then put the stenciling over top, gives us these amazing backgrounds. So cool. I love this. All right, so we've got these done, and I want to also share with you how I finished off this card too before we wrap up the live stream. So we'll move these out of the way, and I'm going to clean up just a little bit so that I can bring in the next set of supplies. And where happened to the rest of my greeting here? I have that. Oh, there we go. I always somehow manage to lose things as I'm crafting. I try to be neat, but then somehow things disappear. Okay. Sentiments away. Trash in the bin. Pick up my tools and move them. All right. So now I need to turn this into an edge-to-edge shaker. So I'm going to grab some plastic. And this plastic is some clear bags that Simon Says Stamp carries over at their store. These are no flap, crystal clear bags, but you don't have to have these. I also will use stamp packaging. So when you buy a stamp set or a stencil set and you have the plastic that the manufacturing packs it in, you can utilize that as the plastic for your edge-to-edge shaker. So you don't have to have this, but it is handy if you don't have any of the plastic from your supplies that you purchased. Okay, now I'm going to grab a dark piece of cardstock so that you can see this because it is clear. And I'm going to cut this. Because this is a bag, we can actually get multiple cards out of this. For this size card, I could easily get 2 panels here and then probably another 2 on this side. So you do get a lot out of one bag. These are pretty nice. So I'm going to, again, I'm just roughly eyeballing this. I'm cutting this so that it's a tad larger. I like to keep about 1/4 inch around, roughly, than the size panel that I'm working on. I'll set this aside and save it because I can use that for another project. But then I need to cut off the sides because this is still connected. So I'm just going to take my scissors, slide it into the bag, and open up these ends. So that I'm going to end up with 2 individual sheets. And because I'm only making 1 shaker card today, I'll set this aside also so I can use that on another project. And I'm just going to work with this single sheet. All right, so I'm going to turn this over so that my pretty design is face into the acetate or plastic. And we're going to put some Terrific tape, that same tape we were using earlier, to adhere this all together. The best way to do this is to start by putting your adhesive along the edges of all 4 sides. So I'm just going to go through and rotate and add adhesive all the way around. Okay. Last edge here. And this is, I said this at the beginning, this is my absolute favorite shaker card to ever make. I don't know who started this trend of making these edge-to-edge shaker cards, because I've seen a lot of people do it, and I've been making them now for, oh gosh, probably at least a year. They're just a blast. So whoever thought of this idea, brilliant. Kathy says, hi, hello from Boise. Nice to have you here. Okay, so I've got adhesive around all 4 sides. We're going to remove the release paper, but only from 3 of those sides, because we still need to have one edge unsealed so that we can fill it with some sequins. So I'm just going to carefully peel off. I'm going to leave this bottom edge untouched yet, so I'm going to close all the other sides. So I'm going to remove the release paper from this one. Lynn says, agree, this is the best way to make shaker cards. You know what else is nice about it is that they are so much less bulk than all of that foam tape that you're adding to create the other styles of shaker cards. Not that that's a bad thing, but personal preference, I find I reach for this style the most. Okay, so I'm going to now start folding the edges of my plastic into these 3 areas of exposed adhesive. So I'm going to go through and fold over and press it into that adhesive. And you see these little corners here? I'm going to show you how to clean those up. So here we go. Last edge for now. So we have now our panel sealed inside of this pocket almost. This edge will fold once we fill it. So I'm going to take my scissors and clean up these little edges. So I'm just going to kind of hold it up in the air, take my scissors, and cut it at an angle. So that's going to clean that up. So now we're going to have this really nice clean edge instead of a little extra plastic hanging off the sides. So again, you just hold it up, take your scissors, cut it at an angle, and it cleans it. Josie says, special way to spend time with her. Oh, I missed somebody's comment. So yeah, so her 3.5-year-old granddaughter was watching at Bling and wanted to help me, taught her how to use the wax tip and put all kinds of bling on an envelope. Aw, for her mom's card. Oh, that's so sweet. And then Josie was saying, what a special way to spend time with your granddaughter, creating memories together and supporting another crafter in the making. Aw, that is so sweet. Yeah, it's really fun to have everybody learn the art of crafting, because it's such a good therapy. It's a great way to express your creativity too. Okay, so we have this pocket formed. We need to bring in some sequins. So I'm going to actually mix my sequins. I'm not going to use like a standard mix. I wanted colors that match nicely with what I'm creating here. So I picked out some Bubblegum Pink from Pink Fresh Studios. These are kind of like an iridescent pink. Then I've got these fun little, like, they look like sprinkles to me, like those non-pearl sprinkles. But these are from Pretty Pink Posh. They are super cute. And then I also have these orange peachy colored ones from Trinity Stance. All 3 of these I have linked in the video description if you wanted to find them in particular. So we're going to make our own little mix here. I'm going to start first with the pink and pour them in as I spill some of it. This is why I'm working on a piece of paper so I can pick them back up. All right, so I added a few of those. Let me pick these up, put them back. Okay, so I have some pink. I will bring in my orange. Yeah, Kathy, it's a great way to mix and match so that way you can kind of like form your own color combination. Might as well undo the whole thing. And it uses up, I find it helpful to use up some like extra sequins that I had maybe from another project and I don't have really a lot left. I can add them to a mix like this and get them used up. Okay, so now for the little beads. These are so cute. Pour these in. I'm think that looks like a good amount. Seal that up so I don't spill anything. Okay. So now I have this filled. One runaway. Pop that guy in. Okay, so we can close this up now. So I'm just going to flip it back over and remove that last release paper and seal this shut. And then we're going to give this baby a good shake. I will clean up these edges again. So just trim off those little corners so it gets nice and flush. And then here we go. Shake them all up, get them mixed together. Cute! Hi, Kathy Crowley. Nice to have you here. We're working on making an edge-to-edge shaker. All right, so I have my shaker filled. I'm gonna put this onto a card base. I'm gonna use this really pretty pink from Simon Says Stamp's Doll Pink. And I'm going to use that same terrific tape to adhere this. I'm just going to add a strip on either end and then one across the middle. And that'll hold it down really well. Kathy says she wants to make more Valentine cards. Oh, awesome! Yeah, I'll have to show you the other things we made, and you can rewind and watch the other projects. So I made this cute panel, which we just attached to our A2 card. But then I also showed you at the beginning how to make these two cards, which you could turn into Valentine's cards. You could replace the greeting with something else. But we did a debossing and then stenciling on top. So you'll have to rewind and check it out. All right, so we have our shaker card assembled here. We just need to add a greeting. So I'm going to use the Simple Sending Love. This was, I think this came out, not this last Simon release, but the one before. It's a really cute, playful greeting. And it's got the shadow die, which I love. I love having these because it's really fun to put like the vellum behind it like I did for the first set of cards, or in this case, we're going to do a purple. So it'll really complement the purple color in our card. So we're going to cut this from both white and purple. So I have a scrap of Sugar Plum purple from Lawn Fawn. It's one of my absolute favorite purples. And then I also have some Simon Says Stamp 120 pound white. So I'm going to cut both of these and use our little mini die cut machine to cut them out. Let me just trim my cardstock down so that it's a little bit smaller. Okay. So let me grab my Scout. This is the Platinum Scout machine. And we'll run these through. This guy is pretty delicate, so I'm going to actually probably run him through twice just to make sure he cuts completely. Sometimes those delicate sentiments are a little fussy to cut. So I'm going to roll this through twice. So I ran it through once and then back. Let's see how it looks. I think that cut through all the way. Yeah, it cut through all the way. So there we go. There's our Sending Love. And then now I'll bring in that purple cardstock and cut out the shadow layer. Okay. So then we have our shadow piece. We set the dies aside and then get this little guy out of the way. Okay. So to assemble this, we'll use that craft tacky glue again. Pop him out and then I'll get the inner pieces removed. He's very delicate. What's nice though about this one is he doesn't have a tittle detached. His tittle is attached to the end, so you don't have to glue anything other than this one little piece together, which is so handy. Okay, so just remove these little pieces. Try not to bend him, he's very delicate. Okay, but before I glue him, I had an idea when I was assembling all of these, when I was prepping for the live. I wanted to give a little bit of shading to this. it's subtle. It's not, it doesn't really stand out a whole lot, but just enough. See how the bottom area is darker? I think that is so cute to add a little bit of shading here. It grounds the sentiment towards the bottom of the card nicely. And I just think it makes the sentiment a little bit more extra special. Since this card is kind of simple, I like a little touch like that. And Kathy asks, this is a smart design. Did you design this one? No, I didn't. I actually don't know who designed this one. It might have been one of the other artists that Simon will purchase art from. I can't remember though for sure. But it is a really smart design. Okay, so to do the little bit of ink blending to my little shadow layer here, I'm going to bring in Orchid, which is that same dark purple that we used earlier. And I am going to use a larger blending brush. And I'm just going to carefully add a little bit of ink to this bottom area. I'm only going up about halfway, so not too far, because I still want to keep that lighter color. So just a little bit at the bottom here. And I'm making sure that at the bottom, I'm kind of making it a little heavy. Now this is a bit more intense than the sample I just showed you here, which is a really good example of how the Simon inks dry back. So it's going to end up looking more like this and not quite as intense. So just bear that in mind. Okay, let me just clean up here. All right, we're going to use our tweezers because this guy is so small. All right, just go through and add a few dots of glue. I am trying not to overwhelm him because again, he's tiny. Very delicate lines, which I think is really cute. He's a really good size greeting. He doesn't fill up the whole card. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a good sentiment that fills up the card, but sometimes you want something that is going to complement the card nicely without distracting from everything else. I mean, this background is so cool. You don't want to cover it up so you can't see it. So that's where having a smaller greeting is always nice. So there we go. We've got our cute little sending love. And then I will take my microfiber cloth and just kind of press over it to help kind of pick up any of the glue. I have one microfiber cloth that I keep just for gluey stuff. So that way I can dab it onto the glue and then just throw it in the washing machine. But I'm not going to use that same one for ink because I wouldn't want to transfer any of the ink onto my white greeting. All right, so I just need to pop this up. I'm going to grab some little foam squares from Simon Says Stamp. These are the white ones, and these are the 1/4 inch white ones. There's also the 1/2 inch too, but I'm going to use a few of the small ones, and then I'm going to lay that down along the bottom of the card here. Okay. And then, of course, the shake, getting all those sequins. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. Kathy says, yeah, I never thought to add a blend to the base of the shadow layer. Yeah, it's a great way to get a little bit of dimension there. Very subtle, but it's just enough. All right, I can't believe it. We have finished. This is everything. I have all these cards now that I can send to friends and family, because I always need good birthday cards. But I just love that all of these cards featured 2 different ways to be able to mix and match your stencils and your embossing folders together to create completely different effects. I am hoping you will try these because this was so much fun and a great way to be able to stretch your supplies. Remember, I'm going to pop back up to the front here. Hi. Remember, you can use any products that you have in your stash. When you're picking out your supplies, I would grab an embossing folder that is scaled nicely to work with your stencil. So when I showed you at the beginning this little guy where it's more of a confetti scattered design and the images are smaller, I used a smaller scale embossing folder. I'll pop back down just so you can see this better. You can see the tiny little stars and it looks so cute with the confetti pieces. but this works really well. You wouldn't want a large scale embossed design because then it would make it really hard for you to see your cute little sprinkles. So just bear that in mind as you're picking out your supplies. Think about the scale of the design with the other piece that you're using. So anyway, I'm so glad you liked it. Yes, learn some tricks. Cool, good. I hope you will try them out. I'm gonna have pictures of these. I'm gonna take pictures after we're done here on the live and put a blog post together. So if you wanted to go back and look at them up close and see everything, I will have pictures. This will be available as a rewatch as well. So if you want to rewind and see everything again, you've got that option too. But I'm so glad you guys joined me. Thank you so very much. Oh, super cute confetti design too. Yeah, I didn't turn that one into a card yet. I'm still kind of trying to figure out what I want to do with it. But that one, I'm itching to finish it. It's just a matter of figuring out what I want to do next to it. So yeah, so anybody have any questions before I go? Rhonda says, beautiful cards and great techniques. Good, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Heather was multitasking, but got quiet in the chat. Oh, that's okay, Heather. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you for joining me. And Allison, you're welcome. I'm happy that you guys enjoyed the tips and tricks. Do you have a regular schedule of lives? I would like to. I work for Simon Says Stamp full time, so I work throughout the week. If I do a live, it would be in the evening during the weekdays, but I'm definitely hoping to do more weekend lives for sure. So I don't have a set schedule yet, but I'm definitely planning to do more of these in the future. You think I should go live every Sunday morning, Kathy? Well, maybe I'll have to make that a thing. Oh, good. Beautiful cards, thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Carol, that's okay. You missed it. You can rewind. Once this is over, this will be a rewatch. So you can check out the entire video and see it all. And like I said, I'm going to have a blog post to go with this so that you can see the card photos and get to see everything in person. I don't have a tour video of my craft space, Amy, but I'm glad you like my background. These are actually newer. I had a small low cabinet behind me, and I needed the vertical space. So I bought these bookcases to give me that vertical space, which was sorely needed. Kathy, you loved the class video. Oh, thank you. Sylvia, I would love to have you join more of the lives, so please do. I'm definitely going to make it a habit to be doing more of these in addition to my usual pre-recorded videos too. So this will be a thing. Well, I hope you all enjoyed. It sounds like you did. So thank you for being a part of this. And I'm looking forward to doing it again. So I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. Enjoy your football or your crafting or whatever it is you're going to be doing today. And I will see you again very soon. Thanks again.